We're booked on Icon for the inaugural sailing. So, in your opinion, do you think Icon will be completely ready for the sailing? I was on Wonder and definitely was not. Thanks, Matt. Great question. And this is I'm gonna change your question to when you're going on an inaugural sailing for a new ship. Is everything going to be completely ready? And the answer is no. And you've already experienced this with Wonder of the Seas. So inaugural sailings are very exciting. New ship, it's the first sailing. There is very much a sense of, hey, this is a big deal because it is. But when you go on an inaugural sailing, you should absolutely expect not everything to be ready. Certain features will not be ready, or there could be active construction still happening on board the ship. This is the nuances of a first inaugural cruise. So that's a problem for you. And you're like, man, no, man, I saw the promo video. I want everything in the promo video to be there. Then you might want to consider pushing off that until for a couple months. Now, that isn't to say that like half the things are missing by any means. When you were on Wonder of the Seas, you probably noticed that like Effectors 2 wasn't available on board the ship. Neither was the escape room. And maybe there might have been one or two other things that weren't available, but the vast majority of things were available on board to do. So I wouldn't look at it as like, oh gosh, it's going to be like 2/3 done or something like that. No, it's not going to be that bad by any means. But there absolutely could be something that's not yet 100% ready. Usually entertainment, it could be, I remember on Navigator of the Seas, when she came back from dry dock, her water slides weren't working off the bat. Adventure Ocean wasn't ready on the first sailing. Now, again, I don't know that that's going to be what you're going to experience here. And the good news is Royal Caribbean has a lot of time to get it going. But when you're any inaugural sailing, there is absolutely the possibility that it won't be 100% ready. And if that is a stumbling block for you, you're like, no, I would be very upset or disappointed, then you should not book an inaugural sailing. So just all about expectations, quite frankly. As per the Royal Caribbean app, is health check time the same as check-in time? No. The health check you can do up to 24 hours before your check-in time, KB. So when you go in the app 45 days beforehand, you fill out everything out. Cool. You can't do the health check at that point. But in that 24 hours before your check-in time, that is the time in which you can do the health check and answer those questions right there. So how does Royal Caribbean assign guaranteed rooms? Great question. And when? The answer is it's kind of a black box. It's magic. One day it shows up. There's no definitive, there's no pattern, Deborah. Meaning it's not like, oh, Deborah, after a certain amount of days, you check back on this point. There isn't. It can happen any point, Deborah, between when you book your guaranteed cabin and your sail date. So you just got to keep checking back. And that's basically it. But essentially, whatever category you book at, you are guaranteed that room or higher. So if you book a ocean view guarantee, you will not get an inside room, but you will get at least an ocean view, if not a higher room category from that matter. But I wouldn't expect the higher. I think it's more likely you'll get the category that you get there. Is there an age limit on the zip line? Do you mean on the cruise ship? Or no, I'm not familiar with it. The only restrictions with the zip line may be a weight limit. And Susan, having known you, I don't think that'll be a problem for you. But no, there's no age limit as far as I know there. My fiance brought up the point that Mexico isn't safe. How do you feel about this? Again, I can't promise you anything as to what may or may not happen. I feel like there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, violence in Mexico has been a thing in the past. It comes and it goes, unfortunately. The way that I look at it is, in a lot of cases, the violence is not relegated to tourist areas. Obviously, there was an incident, I believe, fairly recently with that. Would it stop me? No, because that was the other day. Doesn't necessarily mean it's carrying over. We've seen this historically, Avery. The way I look at it is there have been incidents of violence in a number of countries cruise ships go to, but the violence, while deplorable and unfortunate, and obviously I don't want to belittle the impact to the people that live there. I'm talking purely from a cruise ship tourist standpoint, so please don't take my next comments as anything other than purely focused on Royal Caribbean cruises. I'm not here to discuss the socioeconomic issues related to these countries. But in the grand scheme of things, the violence tends to be fairly limited in terms of timing, and tourist areas generally not an issue. Now, if you go outside the tourist areas, if you go on your own, is there more risk? Certainly there could be that case. So maybe you limit yourself to Royal Caribbean excursions. Maybe you limit yourself to, where you dock. There's some certain precautions that you can certainly take there. But I'd also point out there's crime and violence in the United States, and that doesn't stop me from going to any of our major American cities, north and south. Love them. So, there's risk with everything in life, but I think that it's still Um, Again, in my opinion, based on what I would do, I wouldn't change my plans, quite frankly. When do you think we'll see more info on Icon of the Seas? We're going to see, I think, information regularly as we progress throughout the year. I think we'll probably see some sort of an update this month being January. I think now with the holidays behind us, I don't have a date or anything like that, but I think we're going to see regular updates. I'm not sure I want to go necessarily and say monthly, but something along those lines. Certainly, as construction really starts to get closer and closer with the ship's launch, we're going to get more updates. So, really, what you should expect for the entire year from start to finish is going to be updates, reveals, things of that nature right there. So, how do the showtimes overlap with the 5:30 and 8 o'clock dine times? Great question, Ryan. So I can rather than me rattle off some vague answer for you, my friend, here's what you want to do. You want to go to RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and in the main menu it says there's cruise compass. Click on that and find a cruise compass from the itinerary or a similar itinerary that you're doing, and you can see a very clear example of what to expect. And Ryan, if they're doing it on a sailing, especially if it's the same itinerary that you're doing, it's going to be pretty much the same. They don't reinvent the wheel from sailing to sailing. So one of my favorite tips is to read a past cruise compass to give you an idea. The good news is if you're doing traditional dining, 5:30, 8 o'clock, oftentimes the shows are run opposite of that. So for 5:30, you would see probably a show around 7 or 8 o'clock, and for 8 o'clock dinner, you would either see a show before, like at 5, or afterwards at 10 o'clock, something like that. But again, read a past cruise compass so that way you can get a real apples to apples example of what to expect. Do you think this new main dining room menu will hold up in the long run? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think if your question, are they going to roll it back? No, absolutely not. Could they tweak it? Yes. If you listen to a recent podcast episode we did, Jamie, with Lincoln D'Souza, who's the vice president of food and beverage for Royal Caribbean, he talked about that they're not against this idea of tweaking and hey, this one thing's not working or we need to adjust this, but there's no doubt in my mind this will be the new main dining room menu for the next few years, certainly. How does priority tendering work when purchasing the key? Do I still need to queue up for a tender slot, or can I show up whenever and get tendered? My understanding of it is usually they have like an area, like this is the way it works with short excursions as well, is they'll direct you like, hey, if you're the key, go to the forward gangway for that, and they'll give you more information about that when you're on board. JD, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Appreciate you. 5 days till our first cruise. Any terminal tips? Do your online check-in all beforehand, Aaron. So the check-in via the Royal Caribbean app, fill everything out. Take the selfie photo, put your credit card information out there, put in your passport information, do all of that. That will save you time and make the entire process really fast. And people in the chat will back me up on this, Aaron. When you do all those steps, odds are it's going to feel like you never stop walking through the terminal. You never really stop, which is really great and really expedites the whole process. Any recommendations on destinations? Already been to Mexico, St. Martin, Haiti, Coco Key, Puerto Rico. Love them all. St. Martin, you haven't done any other than St. Martin. You haven't done St. Thomas, St. Kitts. Love those places. Have you been to Costa Maya? Have you been to the ABC Islands? In fact, forget everything I just said. ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao. Derek, you will love them. Those are amazing in the Southern Caribbean. Are there any travel agents that will help to monitor potential price drops found it hard to do? Yes, MEI Travel does this. So they have a special system software that they use, proprietary, that will check periodically and automatically do it. So yes, they won't. It's not like they check it like every second, but periodically that software runs, and they have done that in the past. So absolutely. One of my first cruises on Symphony, loved it. Now I'm going on Mariner, but I'm concerned it won't be as fun because of its age. Thoughts? Mariner's a great ship. You went on Symphony. I don't think I said that properly before. Anyway, Mariner's a great ship. You got a refurbishment with the Royal Amplification Program. Obviously it's not an Oasis class ship, but still a very great ship. I don't think you're really going to do yourself a disservice over there. I mean, unless you're like, Stephen, unless you're like, Matt, I need to have a ship with a Broadway show, a zip line, and 2 flow riders. Okay, well, in that case, yes, you'll be disappointed. But I think that's probably not the case. But you're not on Radiance of the Seas or Vision of the Seas or anything like that. So I think you'll be okay. I think you'll enjoy the ship. I love Mariner. It's a wonderful ship. Thank you so much for joining us here. Check out RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Lots of updates for you over there. And we'll talk again next Monday right here on YouTube. Good night, everybody. See ya.